Hey, it's Baker with Uintah Precision, and we're going to go over installing our Vitrum drop-in trigger. Let's check it out. Okay, so for this installation you will need a 5/64 Allen key. One is provided, and you'll also need some standard trigger pins. Okay, nothing special, no anti-walk pins, standard AR trigger pins. Okay, so those are not included, so you'll need some of those. And then we're going to get into this a little down and dirty installation. We're going to do it as assuming that you have a stripped lower. If you are installing this in a pre-assembled lower, there are a few more steps, but we're just going to get down to the nitty-gritty and just do the trigger install. So let's go. Alright, so we'll go ahead and take the trigger out of the container. You've got the trigger unit itself as well as a 5/64 Allen key. During installation I prefer to use a longer Allen key to be able to reach into the unit, the trigger body itself. So if you read the directions that come with the trigger, we recommend that you run these set screws out before installation just to loosen up the pre-installed Loctite and make it a little bit easier on you. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit the trigger and cover the hammer with your thumb, release the hammer, and then where these hammer springs are at, these stainless steel ones are at, if you take them and kind of scoop them towards the center of the body, you'll see that you have access to those set screws, and once your Allen key locks into them, go ahead and run them out a little bit. Okay, and then the other one as well, there's two, one on each side. Run them out just a couple threads, as you can see that they run out there, and then you want to make sure you back them back in and that they're flush with the trigger body. Okay, so run this one back in, and then they're both flush. Okay, and once you have that, you're going to reset the hammer. You're going to grab your lower. We're assuming that you have a strip lower. Okay, so you're going to drop that in to the receiver itself, and then make sure you put your selector switch in at the same time there. Make sure it's in the fire position. Okay, once you have the trigger and the selector in, you're going to grab your trigger pins. You need to use standard trigger pins, not anti-walk pins or anything fancy, just regular old trigger pins. Okay, so grab you a set of those, push them through. If the holes aren't lined up, you're going to wiggle the body a little bit to make sure they line up. Okay, and then once they're in, you're going to want to make sure they're centered on the receiver. Okay, you don't want them sticking out on one side or the other. Okay, so center them up. And then once you do that, you're going to make sure your selector is in the fire position. You're going to cover the hammer, pull the trigger, release the hammer, and then go back in with your Allen key, those set screws there, access them again, put your screwdriver, Allen key down in there, and tighten that set screw down, making sure that your trigger pins stay where they are, even and flush with the receiver. Once they feel tight, just give them another little turn, snug them up, then go to the other side. Okay, tight, and then snug it up. Once that's done, you're going to take your tool and push that hammer spring back towards the outside. Okay, and now your trigger is installed. Now we're going to test it. Set the hammer. Make sure your selector is set to fire. Squeeze the trigger. Release the hammer. Okay, so it's working there. Then we're going to test functionality. Go ahead and reset the hammer. Cover the hammer with your thumb. Pull the trigger, but this time hold the trigger to the rear. Do not release it. So you're going to pull the trigger, holding it to the rear, releasing the hammer, and then you're going to reset the hammer, push it down, let it up, and then release your trigger finger now, and you're going to want to hear and see this hammer move up. Right there. Now it's resetting and catching as it should. So if it does that, you're good to go, ready to go shoot. If not, generally it means that you've got the brake weight adjusted too light. To adjust that is in the center of the trigger unit, so you had your left and right set screws, right? But this one right in the center adjusts the brake weight of the trigger. So they come to you set at approximately 3 pounds. You can go as light as just over 2 or as heavy as 4.5 pounds, and to do that you're either going to go clockwise to increase pull weight or brake weight, or counterclockwise to lighten the trigger. So if that trigger does not, if that hammer does not rise up from the reset, then you're going to want to increase the weight. So this one is functioning properly. Okay. I want to mention how short the reset on this trigger is and how crisp it is. So if you're running in our bolt action, the reset isn't that big of a deal, doesn't play too much into things. But if you do happen to run this trigger in a semi-automatic rifle, just check out how short this reset is. So release the hammer, right? Fire it, keep the trigger to the rear, push the hammer back down, and then watch my trigger finger and watch how short this reset is. I mean, that's it. So if you're going to use it in a semi-automatic, those follow-up shots or those double taps are extremely fast and very easy to do with this trigger. And from there on out, like we already discussed, this would be in a fresh build. If you are going to swap this trigger out of a pre-assembled lower, you will have to access your pistol grip, which is one screw or bolt on the bottom, and then your safety selector detent and spring is underneath that pistol grip, so be mindful of that. But once you've got this swapped out, you're ready to go shooting. If you've got any questions, please feel free to give us a call at the shop and we will get you sorted out. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for all future content. Thanks.